What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. We're going to start out today with a blockbuster trade that broke very late last night. Might have actually technically been this morning. It was roughly around midnight, maybe a little before me, a little after. Giannis Antetokounmpo has finally been traded after a two-ish year saga. Really picked up this past year. He has finally been traded. He has been traded to the Miami Heat. He's been traded to the Miami Heat. In exchange, Bobby Portis also goes to the Miami Heat in the trade. In exchange, heading to Milwaukee will be Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kel'el Ware, Kasparas Giaconis, 3 first-round picks that are unprotected, including the 13th pick in tonight's NBA draft, a pick swap, and a second-round pick. What a haul. What a crazy trade. Well, so let's break this down. I truly believe the Milwaukee Bucks fleece the bleep out of the Miami Heat. You need to understand something. Giannis, I understand it's Giannis. He is a fantastic player. His resume speaks for itself. 9-time All-NBA guy, 5-time All-Defense, 2-time MVP, former Most Improved Player, former Defensive Player of the Year, NBA Champion, NBA Finals MVP. He went off in that NBA Finals in 2021 that he won. Very deserving of Finals MVP. This guy also has not played. He has never played a full season. He has not played more than 70 games. He's played more than 70 games once in the last 7 years. He has once in the last 7 years. He played 73 games in 2024. That was 2 full seasons ago. Ever since he played, ever since 2019, in the 2020 year, in the pandemic year, he played 63. So I guess that's technically a full season. In the year that they won it all, he played 61 games. And then in the year since, 67, 63, 73, 67, and played just 36 this past year. Giannis is going to be 32 years of age. He's due to miss solid 15 to 20 games every single season. He missed the majority of this past season. And I understand. The last time he was fully-ish healthy, 2 seasons ago, he averaged 30, almost 12 boards, 6 assists. He shot 60% from the field. He led the league in 2-point attempts per game, 2-point attempts per game. He led the league in free throw attempts per game, but also shot 61% on those free throws. Giannis is still a great player. Last year, he averaged 27 and 9, almost 10 rebounds, along with 5 assists, shot 62% from the field, 65% from the line. As good as Giannis is, as unstoppable as the guy is in the paint, he's not going to space the floor at all. At all. He's a 28% three-point shooter for his career on only 2 attempts a game for his career. He's played 13 years in the league. It's kind of crazy. He's been in the league 13 years. It's kind of crazy. He also is not a good free throw shooter. For his career, he averages 8 attempts a game from a line. And he has averaged at least 10 attempts per game every season since 2020. Besides this past year, he had 9.9. So he's averaged basically 10 attempts per game at least since 22. Actually, the day after 2020, he averaged 10 attempts a game in 2020, 9.5 in 21, almost 11.5 in 22, over 12 in 23. That led the league. 10.7 in 24. That led the league. 10.6 2 years ago. That led the league. He averaged almost 10 attempts a game this season. And he's only a 69% free throw shooter. Considering the volume for how he gets to the free throw line, he's a very bad free throw shooter. He always has been. He has never shot 75% from the line in his career. 75% of the line was probably league average 15 years ago. Now the league average is probably closer to 80 or 85. Don't be fooled by the Mitchell Robinsons of the world. Okay, that's not normal what guys like him are doing at the line. Most players are able to hit 80% of the free throws very easily. The guys that shoot 85, 90 are considered elite. The guys that are shooting less than 70% from the line are not. That's considered horrendous. Okay, so he does have flaws. He's going to be 32. He's banged up. relatively often. He's due to miss 15 to 20 games a season. I'm sorry, I don't think he's a Batman anymore. He's a Robin. He's a two at this point in his career. One of the best ones in the league, but I don't think he can carry a team anymore. Could he ever really? Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, he had Drew Holiday, he had Brook Lopez. I'm not gonna be that guy today. Oh, yeah, Chris Middleton. I'm not gonna be that guy today. Giannis was the clear one on those teams. That's like saying Jalen Brunson had Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby. That's like saying Nicole Jokic had Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I could go down the list for a whole decade. Okay, I'll say like I got like LeBron who was carried everywhere he went. That wasn't the case. But he was never like, a guy, a Michael Jordan, what Jalen Brunson did this year, a Nikola Jokic, an SGA, put him out there with whoever, put the team on the back, he can win a ring. And he definitely isn't at 32 years of age. Heading to the Bucks is Tyler Hero, who is a good player. He's only going to be 27 this coming season. He has averaged over 20 points a game in each of the last 5 seasons. He averaged 20 points and 4 assists this year. He was injured a lot, only played 33 games, but did shoot 48% from the field and 37% from three. The year prior, in 2025, he was mostly healthy. He averaged almost 24 points a game on 5 assists. He shot 47% from the field, 37% from three. He made his first and only All-Star team. This is a good player. Yes, he has health issues. He's only played 70 games this season once in his career. That is true. He has missed time a lot throughout the season. In fact, in the 2022 season, when the Heat went to the finals, or maybe it was the 23 season, that whichever year it was, he missed like 15 games and was injured most of the playoff run. He got hurt in round one, did not return until the game one or two of the finals. That year, I guess Denver. So I think it might have been 23. Yeah, in 23, he missed 15 games in the regular season, most of the postseason. That was the year after he was sixth man of the year in 2022. But he's a good young player, very good scoring point guard. If he can stay healthy, or at least give him 70 games, which he's gotten close most of his first 70 games, that's a really good piece for them to get back. They have Jaime Jaquez Jr. He's a good player. Only going to be in his fourth season this year. He's going to be 25. He was the runner-up in the sixth man of the year voting this year. Had a career year, averaged 15 points a game on 5 boards and 4 assists, shot 50% from the field, only 31% from three. He's only a 31% free throw shooter for his career on 2 attempts. He shot a little bit more volume this year. Well, compared to last year. His rookie year, he averaged almost 3 attempts a game from three. He was a little bit under two. His second year this past year, he was at about 2.5. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he's a solid scorer, solid wing to have, very good defender. He is still only 25 years old. He is still cheap. I'm not sure if he's out for like a rookie max extension, but he won't sniff what Giannis was going to make this year. Kel'el Ware is also in this deal. Like, this is a haul and a half. Kel'el Ware was a lottery pick 2 seasons ago. He's only going to be going into his third year. He's only going to be 22 years old this coming season. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate 2 years ago. This past year, played 77 games, averaged 11 and 9 on 53% shooting, and shot 39% from three on 3 attempts per game. This is a guy who in a few years could be an all-star. So Kluber's a really good young player, and Kasparis Giaconis. Now, he wasn't, crazy productive in his rookie year. Only played 53 games, only averaged 17 minutes a game, but 6 points a game doesn't look pretty, but when you look at it, he shot 42% from the field. He shot 42% from three, only on a little over 1 attempt a game. But he's only going to be 20 years old, was drafted only a season ago, 20th overall by the Miami Heat. If this kid can gain a little bit more confidence, especially in the three-point shot, and be a 48% three-point shooter on even 3 or 4 attempts a game, this is a guy who could be a really good scoring point guard in the league. So Milwaukee got back 4 really good young players. So they got back 1 borderline all-star and 3 kind of just guys that maybe turn into a bench player. They got back a few, like, you could argue if you said to me, Jake, all 4 of these guys are going to be all-stars, Tyler Hero has already been an All-Star, and the other three are going to be All-Stars in the next 2 or 3 seasons. I would have to agree with you. I wouldn't have much pushback. Like I don't, have much reason to believe that they won't be. Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kalel Ware, and Kathras Yakahonis. Oh, however you pronounce his name. That's a big haul, and they already have the 10th pick in this draft. This is a very good draft, so they should be able to get a good player with the 10th pick. They get the 13th pick from the Heat, which they should be able to get a good player from. And they get two other unprotected first down the line. They get a swap with the Heat, and they get a number two as a throw-in. So that's a really good haul for Milwaukee Bucks. As just nosy as this saga was, as dragged out as the Bucks made this, they got the best possible package. Like the Boston Celtics, I think, wanted to offer Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round picks, I assume including 27 in this year's draft. Bucks wanted more. They wanted the guys like David Schreiber and Hugo Gonzalez. Boston was not going to give up those players. That is why they were able to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo. Um, this in this offseason, or obviously last time the trade goes through. So Giannis trade from the Heat side. I'm sorry, I don't like this for them. You look at the team, they don't have a starting caliber point guard. Their starting point guard is probably Davion Mitchell, who's a very good wing defender, but he's not much of a scorer. I don't even love him as a primary ball handler either. Him and Bam are going to be great defensively next to each other, but the lack of spacing on this team is really, really glaring. Andrew Wiggins, again, solid defender, but not much of a scorer, very inconsistent shooter. And, I like Pelle Larson's a solid player, young guy, should get better, but, I don't see him ever becoming even close to being an all-star. And you look at the rest of this group, your young core is gone. You got rid of all your picks. You got to pay Giannis $58 million this year. He's due $62, almost $63 million next year on his player option. You're going to have to extend them for probably even more than that. And, what else does this team have? Nikola Jovic is at best serviceable backup center, maybe. Average backup center, maybe. They're bringing Bobby Portis, who's an older player. Portis is not a bad player. This past year, he averaged 13 points. He averaged 6 rebounds a game. He shot 48% from the field, 45% from three. So he's a good player. He's a solid big man to have on your team. He can shoot the ball very well for a guy who is as big as he is, who is 6'9". 40% from the field, 2 attempts a game is very good, especially for a guy who's 6'9". But he's going to be 31. So that's a very good number two center to have. Giannis, Bam, and Bobby Portis down low. Even Jovic. So this team has one of the best front courts in the NBA. There is no doubting that. But their backcourt is ugly. It's ugly. Is Davion Mitchell, Pelle Larsson? Norman Powell's a free agent. As good as Norman Powell was last year, what was he averaging? 24 a game at one point? Was an all-star caliber player. Was, one of the best knockdown shooters in the league this year. I don't know if he's going to be back. So Giannis definitely raises this team floor. This was a team that was a play-in team every year for the last 4 years. Outside of the finals run a few years ago, they have gotten crushed in the first round the last couple of years. You're losing the play-in this past year as the 10 seed. This raises their floor. This makes them a playoff team. They are one of the 6 best teams in the Eastern Conference. The 6th best team in the Eastern Conference this year was the Atlanta Hawks. They are better than the Atlanta Hawks. As it currently stands and as they were last year. They are better than them. I'm going to come off biased. I don't like to be biased. I do not think they are as good as the New York Knicks. I do not know if they're as good as the Boston Celtics. Especially considering Brad Stevens is a wizard, one of the at least 3 best general managers in the sport, in my opinion. He's got to make a move. Or 2, or 3. So I don't think they would beat Boston in a 7-game series. I'm not sure they would beat Detroit. Maybe in a 7-game series, maybe they could. Detroit obviously is missing a couple pieces there. But I think this team, if the season were to be played right now, and we play an 82-game season as it currently stands, they would probably be the 3rd or the 4th team in the East at best. And I don't think they even come out of the conference. Now, Giannis, Again, raises their floor, keeps them competitive for the next 3 to 5 seasons, I would think. But are they going to win a ring with him? I don't think they have enough. They don't have any depth. They don't have a real point guard. And again, the lack of spacing on this team is so glaring in a league where you need to have elite spacing. It's so blatantly obvious over the last 15 years or so, 10 years or so. Like this team, I feel like they're a team that's going 54, 55 games in the regular season. They'll be the 2 to 3 in the Eastern Conference. Everyone's something like they're a title contender. And they're going to get exposed in the playoffs because of how much spacing they don't have and their lack of depth. Like, can they get to the conference finals next year? 1,000%. Can they win a championship next year? No, I don't think they can. And I don't know how this is going to get better over time when you don't have assets to improve this team. Like, do they have the assets to go out and re-sign their Norman Powell? I don't know if they do. Can they go out and get a real point guard? And it's also, I don't know if they do. What are you going to do? Trade more depth for an ancient Kyrie Irving? Now, Kyrie is still a really good player, but coming off a major injury, he's old. Like, who is this team going to get? Like, I just don't understand. And I've said before, I forget if I've said it on camera. I've definitely said it off camera. It makes more sense for the Boston Celtics. You can send them Jaylen Brown, which is the best player by a mile you're going to get in a Giannis trade. It's not even close. Jaylen Brown is a top 20 to 25 player in the league. Is a true All-NBA player. He's a Finals MVP only a couple of seasons ago. That's an elite level player who was an MVP candidate this past season. They have younger pieces that can give you. They weren't going to give them up, but hypothetically, you could have gotten Hugo Gonzalez, Baylor Schreierman. You could have gotten a couple of, cheap, young, talented players who right now are solid pieces and in a couple of years could be all-star caliber players. You could have gotten, you would have gotten picks. They're not going to be good picks. They're going to be late first, but, I'm sure they would have been able to give you a couple of late first round picks that could have given you some swaps, some twos. Like, so you could have gotten that from the Boston Celtics. So I thought it made more sense for them to do the deal because you're thinking if you trade Brown, some change and some picks, this is a team that, goes from, playoff contender to championship contender, if you ask me. They won a title 2 years ago. Miami, outside of the Cinderella run a few years ago, they haven't gotten close to the finals. That's the Big Three era, like at all. I guess they were in the East Finals in 21, or the year before they went to the finals, they were in the East Finals against Boston. But you haven't really been that close. You've been one of the most mediocre to below average teams in basketball these last 3 seasons. And the team is always a team just goes out and signs guys, and I know Perry loves to do that. He has a young Dwayne Wade. He goes out and signs Shaquille O'Neal, coming off 3 rings with the Los Angeles Lakers. They win a ring in '06. After that era ended, D Wade's starting to age a bit. He goes out and signs LeBron James, goes out and signs Chris Bosh, and Bosh and Wade carry LeBron James to all those finals appearances. They win twice. A few years later, all those guys are gone. And he goes out and signs Jimmy Butler on a max contract. Butler ends up taking them to 2 finals. Doesn't win any, but takes them to a couple of finals, takes them to several Eastern Conference finals. Butler is traded, of course, last year at the trade deadline to Golden State. He spends a year and a half just trying to retool the team, isn't able to. They end up losing in the play-in this year. Last year, he got swept in the first round. So he goes out and trades everything for Giannis in hopes that he can get this will push him over the top. But this is a move you make when you're a step away from a championship. He or not. They're a step away from being a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. And this move puts them in the top 4 or 5 conversation. I don't think it puts them, as a championship contender. I think the Miami Heat overpaid for Giannis Antetokounmpo, raises their floor, but their ceiling, I don't think is very high. It's very higher than what the Bucks ceiling was ever since the championship team, which they have not been out of the first round since then. They can maybe get to a conference semifinal, maybe an East final if the conference is weak enough. But next year, the conference is going to be better. Indiana is going to be significantly better being healthy. Halliburton, Zubac, and those pieces healthy. Boston, I would think, is going to be even better. A fully healthy Jason Tatum next to Jaylen Brown and whatever else they do. in the offseason. Toronto was a young team that almost won a playoff series. They should be better. Atlanta is a young team that gave the Knicks, who dominated in the NBA playoffs and won a championship, a legit run for their money. Not maybe not in game six, they lost by 50, but they took 2 games off of them. That's a really good young team. They are going to be better. Even Detroit, who was the first seed in the regular season, that's saying for something, right? That's a young team. Cade Cunningham is an incredible player. If they can get another legit scorer in there, they're a team that should, on paper, be better. This isn't going to be, a weaker conference next year. It's going to be an even better conference. And yes, Miami is part of that because they are significantly better too. But I just don't think I think they gave up too much, and I don't think they're going to be good enough. I don't think they win a championship with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You heard it here first at Talkin Sports with Jake. Giannis Antetokounmpo will not win the NBA championship with the Miami Heat. Have a little bit of basketball to talk about. We had a slightly smaller trade that happened last night. A 3-team trade involving the Brooklyn Nets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Chicago Bulls. The Brooklyn Nets get Julius Randle and the 28th overall pick in tonight's NBA draft from the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves get the 33rd overall pick from the Nets, so that's the 3rd pick of a second round. So when they trade out of the first round, they get pick 33. The Bulls get Nick Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets. They gave up some guy that I've never heard. They sent him off to Minnesota. So they basically get Nick Claxton for free. Overall, I think the Nets do a good job here. And look, I like Julius Randle. I've tried to defend him for years. I cannot do it anymore. He's just so bad in the postseason. He doesn't even try on defense. But he's a good-ish player. Brooklyn Nets, you look at the roster, he's better than what they have, okay? You get him and a first-round pick for a second-round pick. They moved up, 5 spots in the draft back into the first round again. And you get a guy who is a 2-time All-NBA player as recently as the 2024 season with the Knicks. Let's not pretend like they brought in DeAndre Ayton, okay? They brought in a guy who is completely useless. Is Randle going to win a championship with any team? Not a chance. But I think Randle belongs on a team like this. You put him in New York, New York Knicks, a contending team. No, he is not a number 2 option on a title team. I'm not sure he's number 3 option on the title team. He can maybe a 3 on a title team, maybe. But can he, I think on a bad team, he's a guy that can raise a bad team's floor just enough to where, they can actually be competitive. You don't have to deal with, they're definitely tanking allegations. From an ownership and fiscal standpoint, Julius Randle, he's relatively fun to watch at times. He can put some butts in seats. A couple. He's not like a Giannis. But he'll put a couple of backsides in some seats. He'll have some big games. He'll put up some goalie numbers. They'll be empty stats. God forbid he plays in the playoffs. He'll go from averaging 25 to 9. But this is a guy last year averaged 21, 6, and 5. Shot 48% from the field. Only 31% from 3. He's not a great 3-point shooter. He's had years where he shot well. In his Actually, it's weird. He shot 41% from 3 with the Knicks. I was looking at the wrong year. The big year, his first big year with the Knicks, he shot 41% from 3 that year. Shot 34% from 3 in 2023, which was probably his second best year with the New York Knicks. End of his career. He shot 34% with Minnesota 2 seasons ago. This past year, he only shot 31% from the line. He's going to be 32. But he's a solid player. Good scorer. Solid playmaker. Terrible defender. He's not very inconsistent 3-point shooter. A flawed player. But he's their first or their second best player on a team that, outside of Michael Porter Jr. with Nick Claxton on, their next best player is probably some 21-year-old whose name I can't pronounce. So him and the first for just a second-round pick, that is a win for the Brooklyn Nets. He's got 2 years left on his deal. for about 33 or 35, 36 per. If he goes out and has another, 25 and 5 year, you can trade him next year for something similar like this. It's not a big deal. The Bulls, I think getting Nick Claxton for free is a plus. Claxton is not a complete needle mover, but he's a solid big man this past year. He averaged 11 and almost 7 rebounds. He averages 10 and 7 for his career. He shot 57% from the field. Now, Claxton, again, he's got his flaws. He can't stretch the floor. He's not a very good free throw shooter. He's not getting to the line very much. Like, he's for his career a 55% free throw shooter. Shot 61% from the line this year. First year, he actually crossed 58% from the line, actually. For his career, it was only on 3 attempts. He's at 2.6 attempts for his career from the line. But he's a good rebounder, a solid inside scorer. He's a solid center to have. He's only going to be 27. He's on a relatively fair contract. And he goes to the Bulls, who do really need a big man. And they get one. Now, this makes things interesting in the NBA draft tonight. You have the 4th pick. Does this put less pressure on you to get a big man in the draft? I'm not going to say anymore because I have a mock draft coming a little bit later in the show. So I will reveal my pick. Obviously went during the mock draft segment, but that's a good pickup for Chicago. For Minnesota, I think moving off him is a good move. I don't think he's worth the $36 million. You save all of that money, but you also package him with a first for an early second. So getting him off the team is not a bad thing. Did they really have to attach a first to him? I mean, maybe. If anyone who watched that elimination game, that last playoff game, was like, I'm not touch with the guy for 10 to the pole. But I would have, even been like, you know what, we'll pay $7 million of the $36 million he's due this year, but they get to keep 28. Because again, I said this many times, it's very hard to find any value outside the law in the NBA draft. This is a really deep class. They could get an average bench player at 28. I'm not saying they're going to get, Anthony Edwards' co-star, but they could get something else. So I am interested to see what they do. The main reason they wanted to reset, I assume their big trade deadline pickup. Remember, get 43 in Game 5 against Denver in the playoffs. He's a good player. I've always liked this kid. Said this many times. He resigns for 5 years and $112 million. He is a good player. I like him a lot. A young guard. So see what they do. You think, all right, you saved an extra $36 million. You gave 22-ish or so of that to Sumu. That gives you another 14-ish million to play with. See what we do. Maybe you go out and add another piece. One more shot with this core minus Julius Randle. But by the way, that Carl Towns trade looks worse and worse for Minnesota, especially since Dante DiVincenzo tore his Achilles in the first round of the playoffs this season. And there's a good chance he might not play at all this coming season. If so, very late in the season. Think about it. He probably tore his Achilles maybe a month earlier than Tatum tore his the year before. Tatum played, 25 games this year, and that was considered an utter miracle that he was able to come back at that point. So maybe the very, very end of the season, Dante can come back if I had to guess. And a couple more moves in basketball, then we're going to move on to the next segment. Knicks re-sign Mohamed Diawara. It's a multi-year deal, going to be worth about $10 million. This is a good deal for the New York Knicks. Mo Diawara played some relatively quality minutes in the regular season. I thought played very well. Showed off his corner 3 ability. Shot the ball very well from 3 from the corner. Really good athlete for the guy his size. Did a really good job of getting into the paint. He's a very good athlete for a guy his size. He's a very good defender as well. Very versatile defender. I truly believe Mo Diawara can be a really good player in this league. I think we'll have an elevated role next season with the New York Knicks. Mitchell Robinson is probably going to leave him for agency, and he can fill that role as the number 2 big man behind Karl-Anthony Towns. The number 2 power forward center. He would definitely have a bigger role. And Knicks, honestly, I think are going to luck out from not playing him at all in the playoffs. Because now teams don't really know what to expect from him. Yes, he played a bunch of games for them. He's part of the rotation for a solid 70% of the season. He got real minutes when OG Anunoby was hurt before they acquired Jose Alvarado, before they acquired even Jeremy Sohan. who at one point was taking some minutes away from him before they realized, oh, this guy just blows. We're not putting him on the floor over Diawara. And but other than that, the beginning of the year he wasn't really playing. The very, very end of the year he wasn't really playing. He was not playing at all outside of a couple of times in garbage time in the NBA playoffs. He never played even somewhat meaningful minutes. Even when Mitch and Cat were both in foul trouble, they put Ira Porty and uh, Jimmy Sohan out there. So, uh, but they actually were able to kind of hide him in the playoffs, which I think will actually work in their favor for that reason. So Diawara comes back to this on a multi-year team-friendly deal. I think a very good deal for the next. And for Diawara, now this gives you some security. You go out and improve yourself in a couple of years, you could be in line for a real long-term extension. The Wizards make a deal with Trae Young. They'll re-sign him for 4 years and $212 million. I would love for somebody to tell me the difference between this contract and the Bradley Beal deal that we all hated because it sucked. Trae Young is overrated. I'm sorry. Yes, he has some elite three-point range. For his career, he's a 25-point-a-game scorer. For his career, he is also a guy that averages almost 10 assists a game for his career. He's averaged over 9 assists, one, two, three, four, I think 6 times in his career. He's averaged over 10, 3 times in his career. He led the league of over 11.5 assists a game in 2024. Last year, he averaged a little under 18 points a game and 8 assists. That wasn't a down year for him. That was in a very much so a down year. He was injured most of the season. He only played 15 games. That being said, this is a guy, everyone talks about his crazy three-point range. He's a 35% three-point shooter on 7.5-ish attempts a game for his career. That's good, but wouldn't you think it'd be a little higher? Even reading it myself now, I thought it'd be a little higher. So yes, this is a guy that in the past has averaged 25 and 10 assists. And in the past has shot 38% from three. But he has not shot higher than, this year he shot 40% from three. He played 15 games. He played 15 games. 4 attempts per game, by far the lowest of his career. So if he can get back to the guy that was giving you 25 and averaging 25 and 10, 11 assists, shooting almost 40% from three on 7 or 8 attempts, they might have something. But this is still a guy who the last 2 seasons, for the most part, has declined as a three-point shooter. Great playmaker. He's also a horrific defensive player. He's a horrific defender. He's had injuries in the past. He missed a lot of time in 2024. He was injured most of last season. I guess he's only going to be 28. He probably is their best player. But $53 million a year for a defensive liability, a guy outside of, the pick and roll game, doesn't bring a whole lot to the table offensively outside of his playmaking, and will just hurt most of the year. I don't see how that contract is going to work out. This is a guy, at the peak of his power was averaging 26, 27, 28, 29. He's also averaging 15 to 20 shots a game. That's a lot of volume. Okay, so he's just so hard to win with to me because he takes so many shots. And he'll have games where he has 34 points and 15 assists. He's also going to have games where he has 32 points, but on, 8 of 31 shooting. And then he ended up with, 10 free throw attempts. So I think that's a massive overpay by the Washington Wizards. Let's talk some hockey very briefly. One more thing with basketball. The Blazers have hired Micah Norris for their next head coach. I think this is a good hire by the Portland Trail Blazers. I really thought they should have kept Tiago Splitter, who ended up going to the Bulls. I don't know why they didn't bring him back, but this is a good hire. Micah Norris has been a hot candidate for head coach for a couple of seasons now. Been red hot this offseason. Young assistant with a young team. I think he'll do a good job in Portland. I think it's an overall solid hire by the Portland Trail Blazers. But I wanted to introduce the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame. The nominees were announced yesterday. Patrice Bergeron, Carey Price, Pekka Rinne, Keith Tkachuk, Cindy Kerwin is a women's hockey player who goes in, and Brian Burke goes in as an executive. Pretty much all these guys. I'm going to talk about one I think you can make a case shouldn't not have been in, but most of these guys definitely deserved it. Patrice Bergeron was absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer. Longtime Boston Bruin, lifetime Boston Bruin. Played from outside 2005. I think that was the year that season was canceled. 2004 to 2023. Played 19 years in the league. Finished his career with 427 career goals, 1,040 career points. He was a six-time Selke winner for the best defensive forward in all of hockey. He was King Clancy winner for I think that's for something like sportsmanship or something like that in 2013. Of course, he wins a Stanley Cup in I think it was in 2011. Is that when they won? It was 10 or 11 with the Boston Bruins. Had that great postseason. So many great postseason moments. In his last season in the NHL at 37 years old, he played 78 of 82 games, had 27 goals, 31 assists, and 58 points. That was in his last season in the league at 37, and he won the Selke for the best defensive forward in hockey in his last ever season. He just is a guy that was just born to play hockey in Boston to me. He one of the Boston Bruins greats. Just so I can't stand the Bruins or anything about Boston, but so easy to root for. Great player and definition of a Hall of Fame hockey player to ask me. Incredible player. He gets elected to the Hall of Fame. Good for him. Carey Price also got in. I do believe Carey Price belongs in the Hall of Fame. He's a guy that people go back and forth on. If you look at his accolades, they're actually stunningly low. He only made the All-Star team once. He won one Vezina. He won an MVP. A couple other like random trophies in there. He was on the All-Rookie team as a rookie. But this guy was an elite goalie for a long time. Injuries kind of shortened his career. He had some mental health stuff at the very end. But part of it was Montreal gave him so much money so they couldn't build around him the last half of his career. But this is a guy, his 2015 season was one of the greatest years a goalie's probably ever had. That year, in 66 games, he won 44 wins, led the league, 16 and 6. 933 save percentage, led the league. 196 goals against average, led the league. He led the league in a bunch of other like analytical goaltender categories. He won just so many awards that year. For his career, he played 15 years, 712 games. He went 361, 261, and 79. Save percentage for his career in 15 seasons is 917, 251 goals against average for his career in over 700 career games. I will personally never forget the run he went on in 2020 when he, in the shortened season, the year after the pandemic, the year after the bubble, when he carried the team to the Cup final in the slightly shortened year that year. Just the guy was an incredible goalie, and he's one of those guys that he's beyond the box score, as they say. His numbers don't completely jump on the page for a Hall of Fame goalie. Only one All-Star, only one Vezina. Also, like winning an MVP as a goalie should matter a lot because that's very, very rare. That 2015 year, I think, should hold a lot of weight. What he did in the postseason, and he was the best goalie in the league for a substantial amount of time. He gets into the Hall of Fame. The one I thought you could have argued should not have gotten in was Pekka Rinne. He was a really good goalie for a while. For 15 years in Nashville. You look at his numbers. For his career, 683 career games. He went 369, 213, 75. He had 243 goals against average for his career, 917 save percentage, 60 shutouts. Well, he led the league in shutouts twice. He had 8 and 18. He had 5 and 13. He did have he had multiple shutouts in every year besides 2008. But he truly never won anything. He won the Vezina in 2018. He was an All-Star twice. Like, Price was the best goalie in hockey for a solid, 4 or 6 year span. Pekka Rinne was probably the best goalie in the league for maybe 2 or 3 years. And these two guys are weird. I feel like if you were a casual and you look at the blind stats, you might lean Pekka over Carey in terms of Hall of Fame cases. For those that watched hockey, it's not particularly close in thinking that Carey Price was a better goalie. I think Carey Price they're both borderline. I would have said yes to Carey and no to Pekka. But Pekka was a really good goalie for a while for the Nashville Predators. So, but he could get into the Hall of Fame. Brian Burke was a pretty much a no-brainer. A great executive. He's done a lot for the game of hockey. He actually was the executive director for the first ever one for the PWHL. The women's hockey with that over the last couple of years has really took off in popularity from July of 2023 until June of last year. He was a director of hockey operations for the league office for a while. He was the general manager of the Hartford Whalers at one point. He was GM of the Vancouver Canucks for a while. He was the GM for Anaheim. He won a cup there as a GM in 2007. He also was a GM in Toronto. He was the president of hockey operations in Toronto as well as in Calgary and in Pittsburgh. He was the GM of the U.S. national team that went to the gold medal game in 2010, when we Winter Olympics in 2010. They lost to the Golden Goal Canada team, but of course still earned a silver medal. He's in the Rhode Island Hockey Hall of Fame. He was placed in that in 2019. He's actually on the Canada's rugby team board of directors, which is a fun fact. And one of the more accomplished executives in NHL history. He did it from his last stop was Pittsburgh, which he got let go of like 2 years ago. He started back in 1987, and he goes into the Hall of Fame as a executive into the NHL Hall of Fame. And the Oilers have made it official. They have hired Mike Babcock. Look, Babcock has a very impressive resume as a coach. He started with his first two seasons in the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. He went to the Cup final in 2003 with them. After missing the playoffs in 2004, gets fired. 2 years later, ends up in Detroit in 2006 and was there for 10 years and had a very successful tenure there. He won a cup in 2008 with the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit has not sniffed the Cup final since. He went back to the Cup final the following year in 2009. Was in the playoffs in his first year in 06, made the playoffs. He was in the Western Conference Finals in 2007. The year before, they won the Cup. They got to the conference semis in 2010. Did the same in 2011. Lost in the first round in 2012. He was in the conference semis in 2013. Made the playoffs in 2014. Lost in the first round. Lost in the first round in 2015. Got let go. 2016, he ends up in Toronto. First year there, did not make the playoffs. His second year, 2017, they were very good. They make the playoffs. He then goes to back-to-back Game 7s in 18 and 19 in the first round. And then in 2020, after starting up 9, 10, and 4, gets fired. Obviously, it's come out a lot of really horrific stuff about him. A lot of players have accused him of being a terrible human and being a complete bully. Johan Franzen was a player on those Detroit teams that he coached. Was the most notable player that's come out and said some really horrific stuff about him. It came out that Mitch Marner, when he was a rookie, was told by him to rank his teammates' work ethic in private, behind closed doors, and then he shared that information publicly eventually, which was just very unprofessional and very disrespectful. He then he had gotten hired by Columbus in 2023. And he, within a few months, was fired before the season even started. It came out that he asked players for personal pictures from their cell phone to get to know them better upon taking a job, and he broadcasted these photos on a big screen publicly when they're supposed to be private. Just really, honestly, just inappropriate is the word to describe that. The Oilers, before they hired him, had to get he had to get investigated by the Players Association before Oilers could get the go ahead to hire him. But he is an accomplished coach. That being said, just I don't think Chris Dahlbuck should have been fired. This guy is a PR nightmare. And let's be honest, he has not been to a conference final since 2009. Okay, he has not been out of the first round since 2013. This is giving basically if Doc Rivers was a complete asshole, like just he's Doc Rivers with even worse PR to me. So to me, this I think they could have done a better job with the head coach. I know they wanted Bruce Cassidy. Vegas blocked them, so they kind of got screwed out of Bruce Cassidy. But Mike Babcock is the next head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. NBA draft first round is tonight. I'm going to give you my NBA mock draft for the NBA lottery. Have tonight's draft. First overall pick, the Washington Wizards. I do believe are going to take Adrian DeBansta. And then there were some rumors that Darren Pearson didn't want to go to Utah. I heard he has met with them, as well as Washington, and both did go well. I really think Adrian DeBansta will be the first overall pick by the Washington Wizards. I think he's the clear best player in this draft. I think he'll be a really good player, going to be a good scorer, really great athlete, should be a good defensive player in the NBA. And the Wizards, who, again, if they're healthy, could be a pretty good team. Trey, I mean, I did bash him earlier in the show, but he is a guy who can shoot the three. If 80 can finally stay healthy, that is still a guy that can give you 25 and 10 on a nightly basis. The Bantas are a good young player. Alex Sarr, from my first overall pick, had a good year last year. Really good defender. That's a young group, but it's got some talent. Adrian DeBansta, I think, will be the first overall pick to the Washington Wizards out of BYU. Second overall, Utah Jazz. I have them selecting Darren Peterson, guard out of Kansas. Peterson does worry me a lot. Some of the character flags, like him not wanting to go to Utah. At one point, he had said that he had only met with Washington and only Washington. So some of the stuff, the way he hypes himself up, he acts like he's this generational talent when he's just not. But I do think it's the second best player in this class. Should be an elite three-level scorer at the next level. And if he keeps his head on straight, I think will be a very good player. And Utah is starting to finally build something. They got a lot of size there. Laurie Markkinen, of course, last year you bring in Jaren Jackson Jr. But deadline, you have him for a full year. I know Walker Kessler is not happy with them right now. He wants a bigger contract, but if they end up bringing him back, that's some serious size that you got. Now getting a true, ball handler and scorer and Darren Pearson in that room, Utah could be a sneaky team next year. Third overall, the Memphis Grizzlies select Cameron Boozer, big man out of Duke. Boozer is another guy, talented kid. I do have some concerns with. Didn't love what I saw from him in the March Madness tournament. This is still a very talented player. Obviously, his father, Cam Boozer, played in the league for a while, was in Utah for a while, was on those Derrick Rosens with the Bulls for a while, was a good player. Cameron Boozer is a really good athlete, very athletic, big man, should be a good rim protector, should be a good scorer. For three-point shot is a work in progress, but if that develops, which I think it can, that could make him a really dangerous weapon offensively. Should be good in the pick and roll game. I think he'll be a very good player. Fourth overall, the Chicago Bulls select Caleb Wilson, big man out of North Carolina. I like this kid a lot. Health, to me, is really the only concern with him. This guy averaged almost 19 and 10 last year at North Carolina. They really missed him when he down the stretch last year, losing in the first round of the tournament. But I think he's going to be a really talented big man. Going to be a really good scorer, really great rebound, really great rim protector. And the Bulls, him and Claxton together could be a very efficient double big tandem. Caleb Wilson and Nick Claxton. Fifth overall, I have the Los Angeles Clippers taking Keaton Wagler, guard out of Illinois. I like him a lot. I think he'll be a very talented player. I think a really talented shooting guard. Should be a really good three-point shooter. If you're the Clippers, as old and as much of a nursery room as that team is, snake-bitten franchise, Darius Garland, if nothing else, is a very talented scorer. You put him next to Wagler, it's two scoring guards. We'll see how that ends up working out. But, Benedict Morford, you get in that trade for Zubac. I think he's going to be a really great player. He's gotten better every year, I feel like. Isaiah Jackson could be a solid big man. They have a couple of young guys there that I think could be nice. Sixth overall, the Brooklyn Nets. I've been taking Darius Akuff Jr., point guard out of Arkansas. The more I say this out loud, the more I think Sean Mark is going to do something freaking stupid and not take him. But this is the guy they need. I know they have a lot of young guards there. Nolan Trayor and Igor Femin, all these guys. This team needs a dude that can just put the ball in the basket. Darius Acuff is a bucket. He is a primary ball handler. He averaged 23 at Arkansas last year. This is an elite scorer of the basketball at all three levels. This is the kid that the Nets need to draft. This allows them to really stretch the floor. You can spread out Julius Randle, Michael Porter Jr., and the zillion young kids that they have. I don't see how this can be anybody else. It probably will be someone else because Sean Marks is a bozo, but it should be Darius Cuff Jr. Seventh overall, Sacramento Kings take Kingston Flemings, point guard out of Houston. This one, Sacramento is such a disaster. I truly think Kingston Flemings is the best player available on the board, so I just think the Kings should take him. You need a point guard in the future. I think Flemings will be a very good point guard, very good ball handler, good defender. I think he goes to Sacramento. Eighth overall, I have the Atlanta Hawks taking Mike Cal Brown Jr., point guard out of Louisville. I think Mike Cal Brown Jr. is a really good fit for the Atlanta Hawks. They really need a primary ball handler. I like Dyson Daniels. He really shines. He's a good ball handler, but he really shines as a defender. I think if you get Mike Cal Brown, a legit lead ball handler in there for Jalen Johnson, I'm assuming Jonathan Kuminga's going to be coming back for a Kangwoo. I think his team is one more really good big away, maybe one more wing next to Johnson away from being a really, really good team and being a real contender. So I have Mike Cal Brown going to the Atlanta Hawks, just lengthens your bench with Dyson Daniels now as a true sixth man. Mike Cal Brown Jr. to the Atlanta Hawks. Ninth overall, Ivy Dallas Mavericks taking Nate Ament, wing out of Tennessee. I'm not the biggest fan of Ament. He struggles shooting the ball. My thought process is, if you're going to build around Cooper Flag, first of all, he's not a true point guard. He should really be playing the 2 or the 3. The best way to build around a player like Flag, kind of a doodle wing, I think the blueprint to me is how the Boston Celtics built around Jason Tatum. You got him another elite two-way wing next to him and Jaylen Brown. And the best version of Tatum was when they won the chip in 24. You had a lead ball handler who played a crap ton of defense in Drew Holiday. You had another really good two-way player in Derek White. You had a legit big man in Kristaps Porzingis, someone who could defend, who was athletic, could shoot the 3, even for a guy his size. And I think putting Ament next to Flag, now you have another who could be a really good two-way wing at some point. He has the frame for it. If Kyrie can stay healthy, and all those bigs, Washington, Lively, Gabrick, if they can all stay healthy, Dallas should be trending in the right direction. We'll see how that works out with Dusty May coaching the team. I think it's a guy that he'll like. I have Nate Ament going to the Dallas Mavericks. 10th overall, this is the Bucks' actual pick. I have them taking Yaxel Lendeborg, big man out of Michigan. I know they just picked up Khalil Ware as well, and they still have Miles Turner there, who you signed last year. But I have a feeling Miles Turner is not going to be on this team much longer. Maybe not this summer, but I think by next summer we'll be off the team. And the Bucks really thrived over the last 5 years, like when they won their championship in 21, having just a lot of size and defensive versatility with Giannis, with Brook Lopez, with Bobby Portis, even PJ Tucker was an elite defender on the underrated part of that 2021 team. And I think they can kind of try to recreate that. I'm not saying any of these guys are going to be obviously Giannis of his Paris was top 3 player in the world, 2-time MVP, going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Brook Lopez at his peak was really good. Even Bobby Portis is a key role player. PJ Tucker at his peak was an elite defender. But the same style of play with Miles Turner, Lendeborg, and now Khalil Ware. So I have to take Jackson Lendeborg, who I think will be a really good player in this league. Really talented offensive big man who should be very good around the rim. 11th overall, the Golden State Warriors. I have them taking Braden Berries, shooting guard out of Arizona. They just need some sort of young talent in that room. That team is so old. Steph's going to be about 38. Draymond's going to be like 37. No idea what happens with KP and Horford and all these guys. Butler coming off a torn Achilles at 38 or 39. So they need some sort of young talent in there. Besides Brandon Podziemski and Luis Santos. And they get Braden Berries, who I think will be a very good combo guard in the NBA. 12th overall. Out of the Oklahoma City Thunder looking a day Mara, center out of Michigan. I know you're thinking, well, they already have Chet Holmgren, who's 7 foot tall, all defense guy. You have Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a near 7 footer, elite rebounder. I just think the Thunder, they really thrive having that side event with those two guys. Hartenstein has a team option. If I had to guess, they're going to pick that up, or what they should do is probably decline it and sign him to a longer deal for a slightly cheaper AAV, at least at first, and maybe back level deal to keep him under tax. But just you got to think they're maybe creeping into their mind. Ooh, Chet Holmgren might not be that guy. We're not trading him yet. But another rough playoffs like that, another year where he's hurt, not as efficient, might get the wheels turning because of how much money Chet makes. And this just gives the Thunder such a big advantage down low on the glass. And now you have a team that can shoot the lights out with SGA, with Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, all these guys, team that can score. Obviously, they get to the line a lot. They play a ton of defense, and now they are even more unstoppable on the boards. Having Isaiah Hartenstein, having Chet Holmgren, and now having a Dame Mara. 13th overall, I have the Milwaukee Bucks selecting LeBaron Fillon Jr., point guard out of Alabama. They did just bring in Tyler Hero and Yakasonis, but I think Fillon's the best player on the board. Now, if you're the Bucks, this gives you like 6 or 7 legit young players. The 4 you got from Miami, the 2 kids you get in the draft. I always forget his name. I apologize. The kid who broke out for them this past year, the guard, who's still really young. Even Miles Turner isn't old. You have him for 3 more years under contract if you really want to keep him long term. So Milwaukee all of a sudden goes from a roster where it's like Giannis and to they actually have a legit young core. They now have a couple of picks. They got some salary relief. They're not going to be good next year or probably the year after, but 3 years from now they could easily be a playoff team again. And 14th overall, Ali Charlotte Hornets taking Kareem Lopez forward out of New Zealand. Don't know much about this kid, but he's got really good size. And that's what Charlotte lacks. You have elite spacing with Concanepo, with LaMelo Ball, with Brandon Miller. You have a primary ball handler in LaMelo Ball. Sion James is another guard you have, who I think could be a very good player. But I think they need one more big man. I like Diabate. He had a good year. Ryan Kalkbrenner was good this past season. He played well. I think they need one more. They need another big, and they need some more size. A 6'9" athletic wing, I think fits them very, very nicely. That's my mock draft. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.